This season of Sex Ed is brought to you by Lilo. Stick around until after the episode to learn a little bit more.
When did you realize you were addicted to sex? What age were you exposed to sex?
Well, I discovered it on my own at about 5 years old, when I understood and figured out what masturbation was.
I was exposed to sex very early, at 8 years old, through an older neighbor girl. Years later, I realized that was the beginning of kind of the modus operandi for my acting out. It was secret, it was shameful, it caused a lot of guilt.
I remember about 7 years old watching the show ER with my mom, and I remember thinking, what exactly are they doing rolling around in the covers? And that was my first time being exposed to sex.
When did you realize you were addicted to sex? As an addiction, as a problem, I would say when I was about 40, but the sex addiction was always there. My mother would send me to see the priests, and the priests were all pedophiles. The message really was, no one was really going to talk to you about it. Nobody's going to say anything, and nobody's going to help you.
It wasn't until I was 26 where I really realized I had a serious problem and sought help. It was getting to places where it's just really dangerous. I progressed to the level of me prostituting myself.
I started going to a program for codependents, and I told my story of what was going on with my sexual life as well. The leader of the meeting came to me and he said, I think you would benefit from an S program. There's one for sex addicts. It was that moment that it was put in my face, and I was probably 50.
How much sex do you have to be considered an addict? Well, it's not the amount, it's what kind of sex. Is it addictive? Is it healthy? Or does it leave me with a demoralized sense of self?
It's a hard question. I've always liked to say that, it's not what you're doing, it's what it's doing to you. There were times when I only acted out once a week. I did it just like heroin addicts would do it. You stop taking it for a week because you want it to feel better. So the addiction is always there. Part of it is determining what is healthy sex.
What do you think is the cause of your sexual addiction? The false core belief that runs my addiction is I'm not man enough, I'm not tall enough, I don't make enough money, I don't live in the right neighborhood. It's just those self-negating false core beliefs. My way of coping with those was through sexual acting out.
I would say I experienced sexual abuse in my childhood. I was also raped when I was 17. I definitely think there was this unconscious drive to take my power back from men. I think that my personality played into it as well.
I did hypno-psychoregression therapy and was able to see myself molested at 18 months old. And the hypersexualization got me into inappropriate behaviors, and I found myself powerless to stop.
I ended up having the job of taking care of my younger brothers and sisters when my mother got too drunk and my dad wasn't home or something. So what the addiction did for me is it made me feel better for a little bit.
I think I have the genetic predisposition for addiction, and when that began to take over, it took me years to recognize it.
How do you handle recovery, and what does that look like? So I'm in a 12-step for sex addiction. I've been in that for almost 4 years. Also connecting with people that experience the same addiction as me, and they become some of my best friends because I feel like, of course, they understand me better than anyone.
What I found was a fellowship. I found somebody I could trust, somebody I could tell the truth to. The recovery for me now is of service. My entire life is about service, and it helps me give back what was freely given to me.
I put recovery first, and that dictates who I'm in relationship with, where I live. Without it, my life just deteriorates.
If you have a partner, how do you tell them about your addiction and how does it affect your relationship? My husband was very supportive, but he left it up to me to do what I needed to do to make sure this didn't happen again. In the end, it brought us closer together because it did seem to take us to a new level of intimacy and honesty. So
I recently gave up a relationship because I found myself beginning to get close to boundaries that I have, and I have a literal test factor, dating plan per se. What's appropriate and what's not appropriate for me. I don't kiss on the first date, I definitely don't have sex on the first date,
I'm lucky that my partner is really accepting of my past, but it definitely makes for trust issues. And I feel like I kind of act like a brat if I don't get sex when I want it from my partner, but that's something I'm working on.
So my current wife is not a person who wants to deal with it or talk about it. I don't think she fully understood, but I don't think she cared or wanted to understand. I'm in the midst of moving back east somewhere, splitting up, selling our house. I mean, I love my wife. She's a good person. But, we didn't do the things we needed to do.
When I got into recovery, I never thought it possible that I would be in a relationship. I thought, I'll just be this happy single gay man. This guy just dropped out of the sky. It doesn't feel like a burden at all. It's just comfortable and open. Long before that, when I engage with guys, the first thing I would tell them I was a sex addict. If they couldn't handle that, they couldn't handle me.
What do you wish people knew about sex addiction? Sex addiction is not just about perversion. It's a mental disease.
I think some of the false beliefs are that it's a lack of will or it's a lack of strength. I think as society becomes more open with talking about sex, we will become more open about talking about the problems that come with being a sexual person.
The prevalence of sex addiction, the numbers of people who are on the sex offender registry, there's a problem somewhere else in our society. Sex is a normal thing for people to have. It needs to be talked about.
It's not necessarily that you were molested or that you're gay or straight or trans or any of that. All of those people can be sex addicts, and a lot of those people in those categories are certainly not.
I don't think I even knew what the concept of self-love really was until I got into recovery.
As I've come to understand over 12 years later, this is a journey that I will be on for the rest of my life, and I'm so grateful for it.
This season of Sex Ed is presented by Lilo. Lilo believes in destigmatizing conversations around sexual education, owning and exploring your sexuality, discovering what self-pleasure means to you, and bridging the orgasm gap, which is why we're so excited to be partnering with them this season and particularly on this episode of Sex Ed. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please don't hesitate to reach out and learn more.